Hey, let me talk to you like we're side by side at the arena. Because what I'm hearing and what I'm seeing on film point to the same idea that nobody in Los Angeles wants to miss. The Lakers' next big swing might not be the usual veteran minifix. It might be a franchise-altering recalibration at point guard, a playmaker who changes the geometry of the court and the pace of our identity. And I know that sounds dramatic, but stay with me, because I've been tracking how our front office has behaved under the new CBA, how our rotation has tried to create advantages without overtaxing our stars, and how the Western Conference has gotten longer, switchier, and way more ruthless at the top. And that's exactly why tonight I'm laying out a scenario that started as a whisper in league circles, grew into national chatter around another team, and now has a clean, logical runway in Los Angeles if the timing lines up, because when you step back from the noise and actually run the cap math, the asset math, the pace and space math, and the injury management math, there's one name that keeps punching a hole through the whiteboard: LaMelo Ball. Yes, that LaMelo, 6'7". Live dribble wizardry, hit-ahead vision, deep-range confidence, and the kind of tempo that would make this team play with the breathless inevitability we've been missing in our half-court slog games. And I'm not just tossing a star's name into the algorithm for clicks. I'm building this on 3 pillars. Availability, as in, if Charlotte keeps bobbing around 500 or worse and decides to tilt toward Brandon Miller's timeline with clean cap sheets. Feasibility, as in, what the Lakers can actually offer without blowing up the spine of the roster. And fit, as in how LaMelo slots next to our on-ball usage, how he pressures the paint out of empty corner PNR, and how he makes our shooters money with cross-court lasers. And that's the part I want to unpack like a coach on a film day. I'll start with the thing that makes casuals roll their eyes, but front offices obsess over: contract structure, because LaMelo is in the middle of that 5-year designated rookie deal with ascending salary slots. And that matters under the second apron rules. Teams above that line can't aggregate salaries, can't take back more money than they send out, and can't flip recent exceptions for stacked depth. So a real pursuit forces me to be surgical. I'm looking at one mid-tier salary anchor, 1 or 2 controllable young players, and yes, the uncomfortable part, post-2030 draft capital and swaps, because the Stepien and 7-year rules put fences around what can be moved right now. But I'm not panicking about that, because there's a lane where the Lakers can make a star-level offer that's heavy on future control and still keep the rotation coherent. Think about it. The appetite for a guard like LaMelo spikes when he's allowed to play off structure, not just as the sole advantage creator on every possession, and that's what this team could give him. Secondary creation windows, empty side actions where he's got a short roll to a big, and weak side slot shooters who actually punish tags. And because he's a tall guard, I don't need him to be a point-of-attack stopper. I just need him to become passable in screen navigation and more intentional in his dig-and-recover habits, which are coachable. The offense is where the needle moves, and the numbers back it up. He lives in that range where the pull-up 3 is a weapon. Not just a show, high volume, deep range, comfortably launching early in the clock, so when defenses load up on our primary stars, I immediately get a second downhill threat who can throw the veer pop to the trail big, sling the slot skip to the weak side shooter, or snake into a 6 to 8 foot push shot that he's surprisingly comfortable with. And beyond raw buckets, I care about north-south speed, because this team has looked its best when the ball moves ahead of the defense, and LaMelo is one of the league's most aggressive hit-ahead passers. I've got clips of him jet-fueling a wing the moment a rebound touches his hands, and that reduces wear on our older legs without sacrificing shot quality. Yes, I know the pushback, shot selection, turnovers, the "is he ready for a win-now market" question. But let me flip that. The very problems people cite are partially symptoms of context. You ask a 24-year-old to be your entire ecosystem on a roster that's still figuring itself out, you're going to get some wild variance by design. You put that same talent into a structure with defined roles and playoff urgency, you sand down the edges fast. And because I care about retention in our fan brain, let me show you the on-court nutrition this move brings. First, our pace jumps without forcing the stars to play 40 minutes of sprint basketball. Second, our late clock bailout options improve because LaMelo's size lets him see over traps and deliver the slot dart even when the floor is compressed. Third, our shooters, especially our corner specialists, get 2 extra clean looks a night just off his drive and spray gravity. That's how guys hit rhythm streaks in March that carry into April. I also think about gravity chains. LaMelo's pull-up 3 pulls the big higher at the level, which opens the short roll, which creates 4-on-3s that we frankly have not exploited enough. The fit part isn't just romantic, it's practical. He slots as a usage sink when our primary is off the floor. He scales down to second side creation when the star is cooking. And he's comfortable playing let it fly when we need a volatility run to flip a quarter. And look, I'm not naive about the medical file. I lived through the ankle stuff last year and the wrist plus ankle shutdown in March. But when he's upright, he stuffs the box score. And the early season form reminds the league exactly what his ceiling is. Now to feasibility. Do the Lakers have the assets? Short answer, yes, but it's a tightrope. There's a world where you center talks on a mid-tier contract that keeps the books balanced. You attach a blue-chip or near-blue-chip young piece. You sprinkle in a developmental guard with defensive teeth. And then you sweeten it with one unprotected first deep into the 2030s, plus multiple swaps staggered across the window. That's the kind of package rebuilding teams respect because it gives them control, not just names. It's years of draft runway, the right to decide protections, swaps that let them surf upside if our window dips, and contracts that don't handcuff their cap sheet 2 summers from now. Control is the currency for teams resetting an ecosystem. And when you hand a GM optionality, unprotected equity here, cleverly staggered swaps there, and a clean expiring that can be flipped again at the deadline, you're not just trading a player, you're selling a roadmap. Charlotte's calculus, by the way, isn't only picks. If they pivot toward Miller's timeline and a cleaner horizon, they'll care about who mentors their young core, about locker room stability, about cap flexibility for the first big swing on their terms. That's where veteran minutes on flexible money matter, because a vet who can soak usage when a kid hits the rookie wall or teach a read in a huddle is part of the return even if it doesn't show up in a trade machine. So no, I'm not saying dump the entire cupboard. That's panic. I'm saying there's a balanced offer that doesn't nuke our spine or our future, one that preserves our defensive backbone, keeps our best spacer, and still gives Charlotte the levers they need. And if you've been watching how our front office has worked under this CBA, you've noticed the pattern. Prioritize flexibility, keep powder dry, and only splash when the skill set we're buying actually solves a structural issue, not just a headline problem. That's exactly why this splash would laser in on something we don't organically grow off the bench. Live dribble creation with size that accelerates our pace without forcing our older legs to redline every night. Before I confess the headline everyone's waiting for, let me retrace the pathway that helped me connect dots. Because this didn't start as LA wants a star, it started as league noise around a different destination. Then morphed into teams starving for a primary creator should call. And once you map that chatter onto our asset grid and schedule pressure, the silhouette looks a lot like us. Over the past month, the national talk framed LaMelo as a pressure valve for offenses that bogged down in the half-court. Some plugged him into other West teams desperate for juice. Others floated East fits if Charlotte slides. That tells me 2 things. 1, league folks believe the door is cracked if the Hornets tilt toward another treadmill season. 2, the price will be heavy but not mythical. This isn't 3. Unprotected plus 3 swaps and you're sold. Because the ideal suitor is a team willing to pay the future control. Tax without demanding all defense on day 1. That's us. Now the fit, let me nerd out for a minute without losing you. I want LaMelo as the trigger in 5-out delay, flipping handoffs to curlers while keeping the live dribble alive so the big has to honor both the pitch and the reject. I want him toggling between Spain PNR and empty corner actions with our big ghosting into pop, because his instinct to punish the low man with a 95 by the left dart is elite. I want early 77 drag screens in transition to hunt a mismatch before the defense loads, and I want him leaning into pistol and Chicago actions on the wing when teams top-lock our shooters. Mix in RAM screens to free the roll, sprinkle in zoom to punish top locks, and you've got a menu that turns one paint touch into 3 clean looks. On defense, I'm not pretending he's an eraser. I'm using his size on guards, living with some screen navigation bumps, and building a shell around him with plus communicators who shrink the floor and pre-switch the nastiest actions. Use his length for digs, late contests, and passing lane gambles timed within coverage rules, then close the possession with gang rebounding so we can turbo the other way. And in crunch time, the goal is simple. Lift just enough star load that our older legs arrive at the final 2 minutes with juice, because one more live dribble paint touch can swing the shot profile from a contested fade to a high-value corner 3. Okay, this is the moment I promised. Do I believe the Lakers are seriously evaluating a run at LaMelo Ball if the Hornets open the door? Yes, I do. And that belief isn't magic. It's built off the shape of our assets, a mid-tier salary anchor that fits the rules, 2 young pieces other teams actually want, and future control that makes a rebuild breathe. The shape of Charlotte's decision tree, timeline, cap clarity, mentorship minutes, and the shape of what wins in May, multiple handlers, north-south speed, and shooting fed by drive and spray. I'm not announcing a done deal. I'm laying out the logic chain that makes this a real conversation. I'm optimistic because the profile fits our exact gap: pace via passing, creation without overdribble, and a willingness to take the shot that scares defenses into choosing their poison. I'm enthusiastic because you don't have to compromise culture to get it. LaMelo's best self is joyful, connected basketball, and that lands in a locker room when roles are clear. What do I want to see before I stamp it with both hands? A 20-game read on Charlotte's trajectory, a clean scan of our half-court efficiency versus top 10 defenses, the medical box checked for ankle stability, and clarity on how deep into the 2030s we can realistically leverage picks and swaps without tripping Stepien fences or boxing out a second move. That's the homework, and this front office is good at marginal moves that create one more pick-swap lever when it matters. So where I land right now is simple. If Charlotte signals openness, I push chips in. I prioritize keeping our defensive core intact. I build the offer around 1 mid-tier anchor plus 2 real young pieces, not just roster filler. I attach an unprotected future first with multiple staggered swaps. And then I hand LaMelo a structure where he does less, so he actually does more. Before I close, I want your honest read. If the cost is 1 prime future first, multiple swaps, and 2 prospects, are you in on a 24-year-old all-star level creator who instantly lifts our pace and shot quality? Tell me if the red flags, shot selection, ankle history, defensive ceiling, outweigh the upside, because I'll pull film, run the cap sheets, and we'll break it down together. My quick professional summary to land the plane. The Lakers need sustainable advantage creation that doesn't ask aging legs to be superheroes every night. LaMelo supplies that in volume with size and vision. The contract is big but tradable in a star-for-star economy, and the acquisition cost is steep but realistic if Charlotte truly reorients around Miller. If you're with me, tap subscribe, drop a like so this reaches more Lakers fans, and keep notifications on when the tea leaves in Charlotte start to swirl. I'll be here with the cap breakdowns and the film receipts to go the full 48.